Beau DeMayo is one of those interesting people within the entertainment sphere because on the surface, he's basically what a lot of these companies claim to represent. He's not only a black man, but he's also a gay black man. And a lot of companies like Disney and Netflix say that they want to have more of these people working for them and they want to represent these people more often than not. But he's kind of interesting in that he doesn't want to necessarily be a diversity hire like that. And he doesn't want that to reflect the type of stuff that he's working on. He wants to try to stay true to the source material because underneath all of it, he is still very much a fan, or at least to me, he does come across as more of a fan of these properties. So when a lot of these studios are deviating from that in order to try to push their messaging, well, he hasn't been shy about speaking out on that. Famously, he called out Netflix and the creative team working on The Witcher because he says behind the scenes, they hated the source material and openly mock it. And then also with X-Men 97, he was the creator of that. And he said for working on that, the people that he hired had to be fans of X-Men first and foremost. And he wasn't looking to try to push any type of agenda. But then he got fired from the show before it even premiered. And Marvel basically said it was because of his conduct behind the scenes, which to me seems a little bit strange. I'm not necessarily doubting one way or the other because right now it's basically just kind of a one side says the other side sort of thing. So we don't know for a fact what's happened, but one thing is for sure, at the time he got fired, it was thought of that like, well, maybe he did something because if you're going to fire your showrunner before the show even starts, then that must mean there's something bad going on there. And he's saying it's just retaliation because of stuff he said behind the scenes that's not necessarily what they're accusing him of, but just like he doesn't toe the line and they're going against him because he's a gay black man or something like that. So I guess in some respects he will play that card, but when it comes to the entertainment that he tries to produce, it doesn't seem like it really leaks into there, at least not according to his will. But that's why we're getting to the subject of today's story, because Marvel just released their trailer for their upcoming series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And one of the things that a lot of people noticed about that was they had the race swap Norman Osborn. And this is just kind of a trend in recent days or recent years, more famously with more redheaded people, that they have to do race swaps to them. You know, ginger side is kind of a thing, it seems like right now. And Beau DeMayo decided to take to his own personal social media to call them out on this one. And I thought it was kind of funny because in the trailer, there even is a moment where it says like from the studio that brought you X-Men 97, as if to imply that there's some connection between the creative team behind X-Men 97 and this Spider-Man series, when that's actually not the case, because Beau DeMayo was the creative vision behind X-Men 97 and he's no longer working there. And he was the one calling them out on this one. This article from That Park Place is talking about it right here. Fired X-Men 97 showrunner slams Marvel for race swapping white villains into black people after new Spider-Man cartoon trailer. Beau DeMayo, the first showrunner of the Disney Plus animated series X-Men 97, recently voiced strong criticism against Marvel Studios, particularly targeting the practice of race swapping white villains to black people. And that is something that I pointed out when I made my reaction video talking about, where I thought it was kind of funny that they had to race swap the villain if they're going to race swap anyone in this. I was like thinking like, well, what was their mindset that Norman Osborn's a villain? So they're like, oh, well, clearly he has to be a black man if he's going to be a villain. I don't think that's what they're trying to do in it, but that can be what some interpret it as. That's kind of what Beau DeMayo was hinting at when he's saying that they have a tendency of race swapping their villains. The latest attack came in the wake of the trailer for Marvel's new Spider-Man animated series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where Norman Osborn, a traditionally white character, is race swapped into a black man. Of course, Osborn eventually goes on to become Spider-Man's arch nemesis, the Green Goblin. DeMayo took to X to express his concern, and this is what he said on there. Here, let me rephrase. Hey, Marvel Studios, please stop race swapping white villains to black people. It reads funny. Kang, High Evolutionary, Norman Osborn, Electro, Morbid. Yeah, that's kind of a good point on this. I would just say not just focusing on the villains, but just don't race swap people to begin with. If you want to have representation, there's a lot of representation out there, so you don't need the race swap to try to find it. In fact, it's actually kind of patronizing because it's almost implying to black people that like, well, we can't create good characters for you, so the only thing that we can give you is basically hand-me-down characters, so to speak, because otherwise, if we just make an original black character or have actual existing black characters and put them in it, no one will like them unless we give you something else, which to me, that's not really a good look on there. This comment has ignited discussions among fans, with some interpreting DeMayo's stance as a broader opposition to race swapping in media. This earned him the praise from those who reject woke storytelling and forced diversity. However, his remarks specifically target the transformation of traditionally white antagonists into black characters. He's never addressed instances where white protagonist characters have been portrayed by actors of different races, like Zendaya as MJ in the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Yeah, like that is an important point right here. It seems like he just doesn't like race swapping to black characters, or at least that's what he's addressing here specifically. But if I'm going to be fair, this happens so frequently, I don't think you can actually expect him to chime in on all of it. I guess maybe he could, but I think this one particularly is kind of a sore spot for him because not only was he fired from Marvel Studios because before X-Men 97, but they're basically also trying to just boast about like, oh, X-Men 97 in the trailer for this one. So maybe that's why he felt the need to actually chime in on it. We don't know, but that's just kind of one scenario I can come up with right now. Critics argue that if DeMayo issue lies in casting black individuals as villain, it actually aligns with woke arguments rather than opposing wokeism in media. DeMayo has a history of aligning with identity politics in media, so it's unlikely he's opposing race swapping in general sense. It says he does have a history of kind of identifying with woke politics, and that's in how he was fired from Marvel. So we were saying it's because of the group that he's in and other things like that. But like I said, in some of the media that he's producing, according to his own volition, it's not really present there. This article does talk about some of the swaps that were done in X-Men 97, but according to DeMayo, that wasn't necessarily his doing. That was Marvel basically forcing it on him. And I think that's also some point of contention between him and Marvel Studios because, as I said before, when he hired people working on X-Men 97, he said that they have to be fans of it, and he might not necessarily appreciate that the higher-ups at the studio are insisting that there's some race swaps going on, but at the same time, he really was powerless to do anything, and maybe that just kind of eventually boiled over to the point where they're like, okay, well, we're just going to get rid of you then if you're not going to be towing the line and doing what we tell you to do. For example, he chastised X-Men 97 fans for straight-washing Morph's friendship with Wolverine after there was pushback against the fan movement to ship the two characters together in his first season. DeMayo has faced accusations of hypocrisy, noticeably regarding the character's Sunspot in X-Men 97, who was depicted as lighter skinned than his comic book counterpart. DeMayo responded to these claims by stating the directive came from Marvel and that he opposed it. Asked and answered, DeMayo said in a reference to the perceived inconsistency, "This was a Marvel directive. Crew members and I brought up the Afro heritage multiple times. They wanted Latino representation on the team since Storm and Bishop were already black." Maybe he just wants more black characters and less of other races. So he's fine with race swapping to more black people as long as they're not villains. I don't know, but maybe that's the case here, or maybe he just does want to stay more true to the source material, or at least how he reads it. Of course, his hypocrisy isn't the only thing Beau DeMayo is accused of. Earlier this year, news broke that Marvel Studios and Disney had terminated DeMayo's role as showrunner for X-Men 97 just before the animated revival's world premiere. The abrupt dismissal sparked widespread rumors and speculation regarding the reasons behind the firing. For many months, Marvel stuck to the story that it was an amicable parting of the ways. However, in August, the company released an official statement addressing the matter. Mr. DeMayo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation given the egregious nature of the findings. We severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel. And yeah, that was their official stance. They're saying that he would send out inappropriate photos and other things like that to staff members, saying like, oh, he would send like provocative poses of him or nude photos of himself to staff members, saying like, oh, this is with like poses saying this is how I want you to draw the characters and other things like that. I don't know if that actually did happen or not. That's what they're stating. I don't think they would necessarily just make that up, but it is strange that they would actually part ways with someone over that. I mean, actually, I'm not saying that it's strange that they would fire someone over that, because I think someone who does that kind of thing should be fired, but Disney and Marvel does have a tendency of trying to cover up a lot of egregious acts by their higher ups at the company. So I think they would do that when it came to Beau DeMayo as well, unless he gives them some other reason to fire him. And I think it's more ideologically based than anything else on this one. But don't get me wrong, I don't think Beau DeMayo is on the side of people who don't want to have a lot of the DEI elements shoved into our media. I think he's better off than some people out there, but pretty much how I started this video, he is kind of a strange example when it comes to all this stuff though, because on one hand, he will say the right thing in certain instances, and on the other hand, he is happy to lean into identity politics and try to push that in media. So I don't really know what to make of it though, but when it came to this upcoming Spider-Man series, yeah, I do agree. They probably shouldn't be race swapping characters. They should stick true to the source material, and I can see why he's kind of upset about them trying to basically use his show to promote their new one, even though he has no involvement with this, and he's also against some of the stuff that they're doing, and he's against this company right now. But one thing is for sure, it just I don't really think this new show looks really that great. Trying to hold it up as like almost a spiritual successor to X-Men 97, I think is kind of in bad form right here, because it doesn't even look anything like it, or it doesn't look like it's even from the same company. If you didn't say this was from the same studio, I don't think anyone would be able to pick that apart, except for the fact that, you know, Spider-Man is also a Marvel comic. But besides that, this just looks like a lazy, cheap cash grab sort of show. But I don't know. The trailer was pretty well received. At least it doesn't have like a huge ratio or anything like that on YouTube. So maybe I'm in the minority on this one, but right now this isn't a good sign for it when you have people who formerly worked for Marvel Studios trying to call them out, especially someone who worked on a show that was pretty well received from audiences and critics alike. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but let me know what you think about Spider-Man or the new Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show in the comments below. Do you think Beau DeMayo has a good point that they shouldn't be race swapping stuff, or do you just not care and you think the show looks good? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.